If you've been told that autism is a lifelong, incurable condition, that the best you can do is manage it, accommodate it, accept it, today's episode is going to challenge everything you think you know. My guest today is Tracy Slepcevic. She's a certified integrative health practitioner, a U.S. Air Force veteran, and the bestseller author of Warrior Mom, A Mother's Journey in Healing Her Son with Autism. She's the founder of Autism Health Inc. and one of the newest members of the Interagency Autism Coordinating Committee under Health and Human Services. Before any of that, she was a mother who was told her son Noah would never lead a fully functioning life, and she refused to accept it. Today, Noah works full-time, he drives, he travels, he has a great group of friends, and Tracy has spent the last 17 plus years making sure that other families don't have to feel as alone as she did in those early days. I actually met Tracy in person last year at Dr. Dayan Goodenowe's Restoring Health Summit in San Diego, and I knew immediately I had to get her on the show. So today we're finally making it happen. We're going to cover a lot of ground today. Her son's story, her appointment to the IACC, and what's actually changing at the federal level around autism research. The science being featured at her upcoming health summit in April, very soon, and how you can be there in person or virtually. This is Biohacking Autism, real solutions for people with autism and the ones who love them. So let's get into it. Tracy, welcome to Biohacking Autism. I'm so glad we're finally doing this.
Well, thank you, Nadia, for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, before we get into everything you've built and everything that's happening right now, it's a lot. So I want to go back to the beginning because I think it's important for people to understand where all of this came from, right? So take me back to the moment you got Noah's diagnosis. What did that feel like? And what did the doctors tell you?
So it took a little while to get that diagnosis. That was the journey all in itself, and probably the biggest reason why I wrote my book, Warrior Mom, is that for 2.5 years, somewhere around there, my pediatrician just kept telling me that everything that was going on with Noah was normal. A regression was normal. A 3.5-year-old not speaking was normal. All these different things were just normal. I'm here to set the record straight that it's not normal. And, I do say that God sent me angels on my path to guide me in what to do and how to do it and where to go. And from there, once Noah was diagnosed with autism, he was about 3.5 years old, almost 4 actually. And there's a small window of opportunity, especially when it comes to recovering speech. Now, I don't say that it's impossible after those younger years, because as you said, Dr. Dayan Goodenowe has made huge strides with his plasmalogen supplements. And I saw a 17-year-old with autism who was non-speaking, regain that beautiful voice. And so there's hope. And when Noah was diagnosed with autism, I can tell you the biggest thing I felt in that moment was alone. And even though I have a wonderful husband, I have a great family, and I have a lot of support, I just felt very alone. I'm like, what does this get to look like? Not just, for me, but for Noah. Is he ever going to have friends? Is he going to live a normal life? What are those things that we are faced with moving forward? And I was one of the lucky ones. So I dove into biomedical intervention, and Noah responded really well. But I'm one of the few in regards to kids who are able to regain their speech with biomedical. And that's really cleaning out the gut. And it's super important that families understand that there is And, an important factor that we must set a clear intention that our kids can live that normal functioning life. And when you set a clear intention, you pave a path on how it gets to look for your child, for your family. And I promise that nothing will stand in your way. So in those moments where I first found out that Noah had autism, I happened to see my naturopathic doctor because his office was adjacent to ours. And I saw him in the hallway. And I do say there are no accidents, and I call him my angel doctor because he looked at me and he said, Noah is going to be fine. You need to go home and you need to do your research because kids are making great strides with biomedical intervention. And at that time, I honestly had no idea what biomedical meant. I was a psychology student at the time. But moving forward, I sucked the tears up into my eyes. I probably ran home at that moment and became a very big researcher. I went to conferences, and which is the biggest reason why I created a conference. I went to conferences, I went to meetings, I went to tea talks, I read books, I educated myself on how to heal my son's underlying conditions that he was dealing with. And, how do you first find out what those underlying conditions are? And it really starts with finding, the right doctor. Back then they were called Dayan doctors to feed autism. Now that no longer exists. So today a lot of people go through MAPS, Medical Academy of Pediatric Special Needs. There's many other organizations that direct you to the best functional medicine doctor for your child. So from there, it was really just digging my heels in and getting to work. We ate real food, and got rid of all the garbage. Noah was depleted in a lot of vitamins and minerals and nutrients. So a lot of IV treatments, a lot of supplementation, and, once you lay down the foundation, then you can move forward with, those other different types of treatments and therapies that are, a little more advanced, as I call it, hyperbarics and stem cell therapy and neurofeedback, all those different things that really are making a difference.
Yeah. And it worked. In your case, it absolutely worked. Noah today works full time. Like I said, he drives, he travels, lives a full life. Yay. So for a parent who's listening right now and just got the diagnosis, so what do you want them to hear from all of this? Hope, right? What would be like your message to them?
So first off, I'm here to tell you, the number one thing that I did, like I said, was set a clear intention. What is it you choose to create for your child?
Love it.
What does that get to look like? And envision it, feel it, down to a cellular level. There wasn't a single doctor, neurologist, pediatrician, or anybody who could tell me that my son wasn't going to live a normal life. So moving forward, that is the most important factor. And then, the baseline is cleaning out the gut. And I don't want to hear, but my kid only eats chicken nuggets and pizza. And I'm telling you, your kid's eating chicken nuggets and pizza because you're giving it to them. So take over. Who is the parent in the relationship? And yes, this is not like the easiest road. My kid threw food at me for a while, but he did not let himself starve, I promise you. And there's ways to disguise food these days. And I'll tell you, when I started this journey 17 years ago with Noah, there was nothing gluten-free, dairy-free, anything free. People were like, what is gluten? So I can say that we've been gluten-free since before gluten-free was cool. But you stop making excuses and put in the work. You have to. And I also recommend that, the whole family jumps on the bandwagon, that you just feed real food to your family. Just like Kennedy says, we need to start feeding our families real food. We need to eat at home. We need to stop eating out so much. My favorite time of the day is sitting at a dinner table with my family. So we need to bring that back. And that used to be a ritual, back in the day. You finished your workday, you had dinner with your family, you talked about your day, and, that is what brings a family together and makes them bond. But it's just my feel good, happy time of the day. But we have to take a deeper dive into what are the underlying conditions, starting with the gut, and then how do we remove those environmental toxins from the home, from your environment. Yeah. And those environmental toxins, there's a broad spectrum and list of them. So, if you don't want to believe me, you can do your own research just like I did. But removing those toxins from your environment, from your child's body that weren't meant to be in their body to begin with, is the most important thing.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a hard sell. Everybody agrees it's a bad thing. Remove it from your environment. Agreed. It's funny because our paths are so parallel. It's crazy. Like I'm hearing you and I'm hearing myself speak. So we've gone through basically the same thing. So it's amazing. But that personal journey, that determination is what led to everything you've built since. And it's led some pretty significant places, including, you mentioned it a little bit, the seat at the federal table. Let's talk about that. You were recently appointed to the Interagency Autism Coordinating Committee, IACC, under HHS, which is Health and Human Services. So for listeners who have no idea what IACC is, can you explain what it actually does and why it matters?
It's a mouthful, right?
It really is.
So first, what us IAC members do is we advise. So we don't make policy. We don't, create it is not, we are not the decision makers. Okay. What we do is we advise those departments under HHS on research services, national priorities, highlighting gaps in care. And we guide discussions on better treatments, etc. And what is it that is lacking, for these kids? Adult care is a big thing. These kids are aging out, yeah. and there are no solid services for these kids. How do we address those underlying comorbid conditions associated with autism? We need better testing. Those tests need to be improved, need to be approved by Medicaid. And, we need more research studies, for sure. More research studies. And I would go a little bit into what we need to research, but I'm just going to let you use your imagination.
Agreed. We're on the same page for that, Yes, absolutely. So Secretary Kennedy has been super vocal about wanting to bring autism research into what he calls the 21st century. So, okay, from your seat on that committee as an advisor, so what is that looking like in practice? I don't know if you can share that.
Well, we haven't had our first meeting yet.
Okay.
There's a matter of everybody getting their paperwork done and, everybody getting approved. There's a huge background check process, financial, to make sure that, none of us on the committee are benefiting financially from being on the committee. Oh, so great. There's still a little bit of a process that is being completed. And they did say, this possibility that our first meeting will be sometime in April, end of April. I really hope it's after my conference,
Yeah,
but if
that's
it's
what I was
before, then
thinking.
I just get to make it happen.
Oh my goodness, yes. Hopefully. No, that's awesome. So I totally understand. I was looking at the composition of the committee, and it includes parents and advocates, but also scientists and people who have lived this, not just studied it. So a great composition. So to you, why is this composition significant?
So we have doctors, researchers, scientists, parents, and we have, two individuals on the spectrum
Oh,
that are on the committee. And it's supposed to be a diverse group. And so we can use our lived experiences, our professional background, our, what we've researched, what we know works, what doesn't work. And, to be able to give that advice to HHS.
Oh, that's wonderful. Wonderful. So, okay, great. You spoke a little bit about research and policies, and you've spoken about a couple of things, right? So, policies, of course, for caring for people with autism, adults and children, and also medical research. There's the obvious ones, of course, but there's a lot more research, right, that need to be done. Did you get any kind of insight at how open HHS will be, or maybe NIH,
So
FDA?
honestly, I don't know. I'm
Okay.
going in with a very positive attitude and a clear intention as to what it is that I choose to create by being on this committee, and I'm going in as somebody who is representing, the autism community.
Amazing.
I'm representing these kids, their families, anybody who is impacted by autism and neurological disorders.
Yes.
There's a broad spectrum, ADD, ADHD, all those, they kind of all fall on the spectrum. They might just be at different functional levels. I'm not going to be that fly on the wall, right?
I know you won't. I know you won't. And that's why, by the way, this next question is a bit tough, but just whatever you can answer would be great. So, autism families have been asking for real answers for decades. Well, we have been asking for answers for decades for sure. So, do you feel like it's a genuine moment this time, or is it still a long game again?
Well, I still feel regardless, there's a process to anything. And, for example, a lot of the stuff that Kennedy is implementing, then he's getting kickback and things are being reversed. And then there's certain states that won't implement certain things that the CDC, for example, is recommending. And so it's, I believe we're making progress. And this is the most progress we've ever made in probably history.
Agreed.
Especially since the autism epidemic, and I am going to call it an epidemic.
Of course.
But it is very important that we understand that Kennedy is, under the advisory of an administration. If he could, I think to myself, in my own opinion, if he could only do what he really wants to do, the world will definitely be a better place.
Yes.
But there are powers that be, and there are going to be. I tell people a lot, where there's light, darkness will always be lurking around the corner. But then you just shine your light brighter, and we continue on this mission of what we were put here to do. So there are no accidents that, my son has autism, that I was able to recover him, and that my journey looked that way, because now I'm able to advocate for other families and help other families on their journey and give them hope. So in that, all that, it's very important that we all stay focused as truth seekers, as parents, as advocates, as practitioners, doctors, scientists, researchers, health and freedom fighters, that we all stay on that path. Because this is what I say. No matter what, even when I get on a stage and I speak from spirit, which means I just let God speak through me. And as long as I stay true to who I am, then I'm on the right path. And those that feel they need to be PC compliant or watch what it is they say to whomever, then maybe that's just something that they need to take a look at. Because if I could save one child's life by just talking to somebody who's pregnant, first child, and I've done it so many times, or a new parent that has a little baby. You know, a lot of times I'll carry my books with me when I travel, and I'll always offer up a free book. Hey, would you read this if you knew that it could possibly save your child's life? I haven't had anybody say no. Yeah. So be open to the possibilities, but also trust the process. There's a process to everything. You know, God's got a plan. We make plans, then he makes different plans and he laughs at us, right? That's the whole saying. And it is so true. But it's so important that we just stay the course and do what it is that we're supposed to do.
Yeah. And I always say, you know, we have control. I mean, there are things we don't have control over, like you said, but there are some things we have control over, right? So, yes. So while, frankly, the federal work is happening, cooking in the background, what you have control of a lot right now is you've been doing something incredibly powerful at the community level, right? With parents building Autism Health Inc., which is your company. So you built it from the ground up. So let's talk about how that happened. You went back to school. See, control. You have control over this. You went back to school, earned your degree in complementary and alternative medicine. You became a certified integrative health practitioner. You wrote a best-selling book. At what point did you realize that your personal mission, as you were saying, had become something bigger than just your own family?
I really think it was when COVID hit.
Oh.
And then God sent me another angel, because for so many years, I always wanted to write a book as like a guidebook for parents. And I had mentored parents for probably over 13 years and guided them on what to do, wrote a protocol for them, gave them nutritional advice, and, you know, did what I could over the years. But I needed to do it at a different level, because when COVID hit, I kind of knew what was going on. And I felt it was the most important time to reach families and to speak my truth. So that was kind of the moment that I knew that there was something bigger.
I love that. I love that. And we'll talk about the conference in just a little bit, but Autism Health Inc. itself. So what does it do, that the traditional system like simply does not? You were talking about protocols. So what does that look like?
So Autism Health is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are dedicated to educating families, practitioners, caregivers on how to address the underlying comorbid conditions associated with autism and neurological conditions. And we provide monthly webinars at no cost. We provide monthly autism support groups, free family coaching. And so we have all these different services. And then we have our flagship event once a year in San Diego, typically around the end of April. We do the Autism Health Summit. And we have those truth speakers, like Aaron Seary and Del Bigtree, Dr. Toby Rogers, and Dr. Dayan Goodenowe, and so many more on, what it is that, these families need to hear. Mm-hmm. But also we partner with organizations like Dr. Goodenowe Enterprises, who's sponsored over 200 families with his plasmalogen supplementation. And then also with Ed Clay at Cellular Performance Institute in Mexico, who has graciously offered to fund, and I throw that word fund in there, a clinical trial for mesenchymal stem cells for autism. And I do like, blow up that word fund, because he is spending probably well over $5 million on this study. And it's a very important study. So at the conference, they are going to release a lot of their findings and how it is that they're going to move forward with this study. So they're looking to, and this is their goal, will it happen this way? Don't know yet, is to do phase 1 in Mexico and then to push through, and they're hoping to skip phase 2 and move on to phase 3 in the United States, because he's opening a clinic in Nashville. And, to get this study done. And so we work with groups and companies and organizations all day long on whatever it is that we feel would truly benefit, individuals on the spectrum.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that. That's a lot more than what I even thought. So amazing. I can't wait for the conference.
I wear many hats.
It's yeah, I don't know how you do it. And you've been at this space for 17 years now. So again, before we jump into the conference, so what's the biggest shift you've seen in how we understand autism, especially on the medical side, obviously?
So if you're asking me versus some people who may not believe this, I truly believe that autism is 100% biological. It's not genetic. You can have some pre-genetic dispositions, don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. And those pre-genetics will contribute for sure. And that's like MTHFR, mitochondrial disorder. A lot of these pre-genetics are the loaded gun. And then we have the environmental factors which pull the trigger. Mm-hmm. So, to say that autism is just solely genetic and they got better at testing it is in my personal opinion, is completely inaccurate and has been totally debunked many ways. So you don't have to believe me. You could do your own research and go down the rabbit hole. Don't Google it. You can't Google anything anymore. Yeah. But there are studies out there. There are many studies.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a huge shift. And I love that you're saying that, which is why you and I have been talking to parents pre-children, right? So a lot of parents are reaching out and saying, hey, what can we do before? So that's amazing. So before we go into the science of your conference, I just want to share our standard reminder, disclaimer. Everything you hear on this podcast, including today's conversation, is for informational and educational purposes only. It's not medical advice. It's not a substitute for working with a qualified healthcare professional, and it's not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any condition. Every individual is different, and any changes to your health protocol should always be made in partnership with your own doctor or care team. Okay, with that said, let's go into the good stuff. So one of the things I love most about the Autism Health Summit is that it puts the cutting edge, right, of science in the same room as families who need it most. So I want to use this time to give our listeners a real preview, because whether or not they can make it to the summit, this information is going to matter to them. So the summit covers gut health, plasmalogens, peptides, mitochondria, PANS and PANDAS. So for a parent who's hearing some of these words for the first time, can you break down why these are relevant to autism? You've touched on it a little bit, but can you explain it to them a little bit more?
So, like I said before, these underlying conditions need to be addressed. First, they need to be identified. And then we need to then figure out how to treat them. So if they're not identified by doing a whole plethora of tests. So a lot of blood work, a lot of out of the scope blood work, urine tests to test for heavy metals, a comprehensive stool exam to find out, dysbiosis, candida, parasites, all kinds of stuff. We need to know how the gut's working. And I actually find that is one of the most important tests to run is, how's your gut working? Because 100% of these kids have some sort of messed up gut. And, if you don't know, your gut is connected to your brain via your nervous system. So when it's inflamed, it's going to inflame the brain as well. So we got a lot of inflammation on the brain. We got encephalitis. And we need better healing modalities on how to treat it. So I have a lot of doctors who talk about, what are those underlying conditions? What are some different treatments and solutions for those? What are basic biomedical protocols, to treat those issues?
Yeah. And most of the times everybody's focused on the symptoms, right?
Right.
Anxiety, obsessive behaviors, social issues, which are real and should be taken care of. But the root causes often are these comorbid conditions, those underlying medical conditions. And yes, that's complex, but it's got to be addressed. It just has to. Okay, so let's start with Dr. Goodenowe, who, as I mentioned, is actually how we met. You and I met. He's presenting on plasmalogens and neurodevelopment. So for people who haven't heard about him yet, and hopefully we'll have him on the podcast soon and we can go deeper there. But can you give us a preview of why his research is so significant in the context of autism?
So first of all, in regards to papers and research and everything else, you already know the man's absolutely brilliant, but he holds the patents on a lot of this, research for autism. I mean, so in the proof is in the pudding. So I always say, if you want to know, look for the testimonials. He's got so many testimonials. And he's doing his own research. I think, his goal is to actually make plasmalogen supplementation FDA approved for autism. And it's costing him millions of dollars. I mean, the money that these experts are putting into this type of research is for none. And he is, one of the most dedicated and kind and generous individuals that I know. I believe what he's doing, not just for autism, but for, ALS and Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and dementia and all those other conditions, neurological conditions, is very important. I mean, I take plasmalogens, my husband does, my son does. We all take them, and it is super important for us to support his work and what he does. So he's speaking twice. He speaks on Friday and Saturday. He'll be speaking on the benefits of plasmalogens for autism specifically, and then other neurological disorders that he has experience with on Saturday.
Wonderful. Yeah. And by the way, one of the goals of this podcast is to care for caretakers also. So I love that you're saying that you're taking plasmalogens, because you have to take care of yourself as a caretaker. When you have to feel better to show up for our kids. So I love that. So how about PANS and PANDAS? And my son Jimmy, of course, has it. We've done IVIG for years when he was still like so little, so we've gone through this whole journey. But a lot of autism families have generally never heard of this, PANS, PANDAS. So can you explain what it is and why it belongs on the agenda of your summit?
So I'd say a good 90% of these kids probably have PANDAS, right? Pediatric autoimmune neuropsychotropic disorder associated with streptococcus. So high levels of strep in the blood cause major inflammation on the brain, which cause behaviors and self-injurious behaviors, tics, Tourette's, all those different types of conditions is typically the result of PANDAS. And the testing is there is no a singular test for, PANS, PANDAS. And it needs to be addressed. It is the severity of it is important. It is an underlying condition that's very serious. And unfortunately, most families don't know, right? That their kids' behaviors, they're like, oh, it's just, side effect of having autism. No. And the treatments are not cheap. And not if you've paid for IVIG, I'm here to tell you. And IVIG is not covered for PANDAS, right? I've even hired an attorney to try to get it covered. No. So we need better testing. One, that testing needs to be covered by Medicaid, and the treatments need to be covered. Now, I find that there's a couple more approaches better than IVIG that are more affordable. So high dose vitamin C is a really good one, IV wise. But the best one that I found is 10-pass IV ozone therapy.
Oh, yeah.
So, and when I say 10-pass, you can do 1 pass where, the blood comes out, it's mixed in a vial with the ozonated oxygen to clean the blood, to filter the blood. And it's typically run through UV light and put back into the body, right? But, a 10-pass does that up to 10 times. Now, you don't start at 10 because that's a lot of detoxing and dying off going on. So typically 1 week, you do 2 pass. 2 pass is very safe to start off at. Then you go to 4, 6, 8, 10. And then you'll start to see no with sleep and, there's all kinds of stuff that results from that. But it's really important for it to be treated and dealt with, for sure.
Yeah. And by the way, I've learned about EBU from my longevity groups, where I always say I go to the biohacking and longevity groups to kind of spy for our kids, for the autism community. So in the longevity world, EBU is, a given. In biohacking world, everybody does it too. It's an amazing
solution. I don't recommend EBU. So EBU is different. Okay.
It's too strong.
So because EBU's a little invasive for these kids, you have to stick 2 IVs, and they're very big needles in each arm.
Yeah.
1 is enough. So, and it's pretty traumatic. And my husband has huge veins, huge. They have like big pipes. And he had trouble with EBU. So,
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay.
So I'm not a proponent for EBU, although what it does, yes, it's amazing. The blood comes out of one arm. It does the same thing. It goes through an ozonated process that, stuff's filtered out, goes through a light, and then it goes back in the other arm. But I've seen just as much progress with, a 1 to 10 pass. You do have to work your way up. You can't just do 1 and be done. It just doesn't work that way. So I don't recommend either.
No, thank you. That's actually super helpful because I haven't done it for Jimmy yet, mainly because I was worried about herxing. So that's actually really cool to maybe try and do a 1 or 2 pass just to get started, work on the detox, mop, all the toxins, and then go back for another pass or 2. That's wonderful. By the way, that's super helpful. That's exactly what we need. That's the advice that we need because
and finding, the right clinic that actually has a 10-pass machine, not all of them do, because it's apparently a very expensive, thing to have. So
the ozone machine, well,
I'm starting. Ozone machine's not expensive, but an actual 10-pass machine.
That's right.
There's a specific machine that actually does 10-pass. So it's just finding the right. I mean, I know Southern California is full of them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But other states, I honestly, I don't know. That people would have to do the research.
Yeah. But see, already for PANDAS, we've spoken about 2 potential solutions, really good, solid solutions that exist, that are available, but they're so expensive because EBU in general is about $1,000 to $2,000, maybe even more. And then IVIG can go in the tens of thousands of dollars. So it's ridiculous.
Well, EBU can be up to like $2,500 to $3,000 is where I've seen it. Yeah,
exactly. So it's sad that it's not very accessible, but this is again a situation where we talk about the symptoms, which is going to be incredible OCD, incredible repetitive behavior and rigidity, even things like being very obsessed with water, eloping to water, just crazy things. But no one has access to these potential solutions. So that's why I'm hoping that by you educating more practitioners, and again, hopefully on the committee, just having people hear about the existence of these solutions that don't need to go through clinical studies, it's done, and maybe helping parents have access to them, that would be absolutely fantastic. So, but that brings me to also, so stem cell therapy, mitochondrial approaches, infrared therapy. So these weren't on most families' radar 5 years ago. But so why are you featuring them on the summit now?
They were on my radar 5 years ago. They were on my radar 17 years ago. But yes, biohacking is much bigger. And so it's important to know that there's treatments and therapies out there that actually show benefits. So, but everybody just responds differently. I always say I'm not going to promote something that one is overly invasive for these kids, but something that I haven't personally experienced works. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. True. So. I totally agree with that. That's why I have all these things that I never even talk about that I'm still testing. I totally agree. Okay, so everything you just walked us through, that's what will be in the room at the Autism Health Summit this April, in just a few weeks. So let's make sure every single person listening knows how to get there to the Autism Health Summit. So it's going to be April 23 through the 26th. So let's start with the basics. Who is this event actually for? Is it just for medical professionals, or can any autism parent walk in the door?
So we do offer CME credits for medical professionals.
Great.
So we have a professional track, but you can attend just general admission. If they are low income and they qualify, if they make less than $60,000 a year, then we will give them a free ticket. Or if it's a couple, we will give them 2 free general admission tickets. There is a VIP experience because we do a VIP dinner Saturday evening. And, so it's April 24th through 26th. It's 2.5 days. It's not 3 full days, but 2.5. It's in sunny San Diego. Mm-hmm. And they can go to autismhealth.com, or they can go to ahsconference.com. There's 2 different websites.
Amazing. And I'll put all this in the show notes, of course. So I have to be honest with our listeners, I'm not going to be there in person this year. The podcast just launched and I'm deep in recording mode, literally cannot leave my home studio right now. I'll definitely be there next year for sure. But I'm definitely going to be there virtually. So tell us how the virtual experience works, because I think a lot of families need to know that that's actually a real option.
Yeah, so we do a live virtual, and you receive access to the recordings for up to 2 years. And if you attend in person, you still receive access to the recordings for up to 2 years. So you can see it live. A lot of people do like to see it live. And then you have, that access. So it takes us about 10 days or so to get it up and running online and going, and then people can receive that access.
Yeah, and being live is amazing because you're with your people. You get to meet all these amazing people, and you've told the story before about the mother who came up to you in tears at a previous summit and said it was the first time she'd felt hopeful. So what does a moment like that mean for you, and what do you want every attendee to walk away with this year?
It fills my cup. It reminds me that all the hard work and everything that I do is making a difference, and that people are impacted, and I am reaching, those that truly need it the most. So it means the world to me. It means a lot to me that everyone has access to go to the conference, especially in person, because community is super important. So that's why we do offer those scholarships. We offer discounts if they're regional center, because regional center won't vendorize us because we're a little on the controversial side. So if they're, they can reach out to, anybody can reach out to info@autismhealth.com with questions, or to get those discount codes, or to apply for that scholarship, which is also on our website. There's a form that they have to fill out on the website to be eligible for a scholarship.
Perfect. And again, we'll put all that in the show notes. Okay, so that's amazing. So you told us where they can register. And so for the attendees, is there anything they need to know before they go, for the people who are not local or for the locals?
Okay. There's a discount code. They can use Autism50 for $50 off any in-person ticket. Unfortunately, like the virtual is going to be full price at $95. And, there's really, just be prepared to, one, have a really great time, because we are a fun bunch. We have speakers from all over the world, even Malaysia. We have attendees from all over the world, Austria, London. We have, our autism speaker. She's from London, and her family are performers. Her father was a platinum tenor singer. So they usually perform at our conferences, and, they sing at our events, our cocktail reception, our dinner reception. And it's, you just be prepared to have a good time.
Oh, I love it. I'm sure it's going to be super fun. So now we're getting close to the end, and I just want to make sure we leave every parent listening with something they can actually hold on to. So for a parent who just got the diagnosis, and we already talked about that a little bit, but just as we're nearing the end, so they're overwhelmed, they're scared, they don't know where to start. What is the very first thing you tell them?
First of all, you have to believe and trust the process. So you have to, believe that your child will live a normal functioning life, however that gets to look. And I'm not here to say that I cured my son or I fixed my son or anything. He's fully functioning. He works, he drives, he travels the world all on his own. But he's got his few challenges. He doesn't want to, eat real food anymore. He wants to eat garbage because he was never fed it throughout his life. So in those moments, you just let go and you let God take over, because there's only so much you can do for your children, especially when they're 20, almost 21 years old, is to just, give it to God.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Yes. Okay. And the title of your book is Warrior Mom. And I'll link it also in the show notes because I would love everybody to read it. It's great. So what do you want the warrior mom term to mean to someone who picks it up for the first time?
Is that they actually go the distance for their child.
Yeah.
Not the parents who make the excuses, but I earned the title warrior mom. During that time, financially we were struggling. I bartered for treatments. I negotiated. I sold everything I owned if I could pick it up and put it on eBay. But if I did not do that, if I did not go the distance and, kept with feeding him healthy food when he was throwing food at me, and, picking up books and learning, going to a library, going to these training classes, going to conferences where I learned everything I possibly could. If I didn't do all that, my son would be in a very different place today. So being a warrior, not just warrior mom, but warrior dads. We do have our warrior dads out there, going the distance for your children, starting with the gut. You can't skip the gut. It's laying a foundation. And, from there, it's really just learning and educating yourself and being the researcher. So to me, if you want to just throw treatments in there, if you want to just throw therapy on top of it, OT, PT, speech therapy, whatever, I'm here to tell you, sure, go ahead, but it's not going to work as well. I don't feel it does unless you literally lay a foundation, to address what's going on in the body.
Medically. Agreed. Absolutely. 100%. So, okay, last question. Where can people find you, follow your work, maybe work with you, stay connected to everything you and Autism Health Inc. are building?
I am the only Tracy Slepcevic out there. I swear to you, my husband gave me an original name. So if you Google me, you'll probably find it. But if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out at info@autismhealth.com and I will email you back. It might take some time. All of our sites are typically at Autism Health Inc. For Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, all those different sites. So it's Autism Health Inc. And then you can also find my professional pages, Tracy Slepcevic. My personal Instagram is Autism Author Mama. I had a different one before, but it got stolen and hijacked, and my warrior mom stuff got hijacked by some Nigerian person.
Probably.
And so a lot of them I don't have. You will most find me on Facebook at most actively, and second would be Instagram. Third would probably be LinkedIn. Oh, we do have a TikTok too. That's Autism Health Inc. as well.
And your Substack is great too, by the way.
Oh, yes, my Substack. So
really
yes, it is Warrior Mom Substack, and you can find me by searching, for Warrior Mom.
And I'll link that again, all in the show notes. So, Tracy, thank you. That conversation was everything I knew it would be. So if you are a parent who has been told to lower your expectations, I hope today's episode reminded you that those words are not a verdict. They're a starting point. And there's an entire community of people who have refused to accept them, who have done the research, found the answers, watched their kids thrive in ways nobody said was possible. So the Autism Health Summit is happening April 24 to 26. And I genuinely believe it's one of the most important events in the space right now. I'll be attending virtually. You can too. I hope you can make it in person. It's better, but it's an option. So I'll link in the show notes how to register. I'll also drop everything else in the show notes and the code that Tracy very gracefully gave us. Tracy's book, Warrior Mom, is linked in the show notes as well. So if you haven't read it, it will change how you see the journey. It will. And if today's episode was useful, please share it with a parent who just got a diagnosis, with a caregiver who's running on empty, with a doctor who needs to hear that there's more they can do. They might just not know. That is how we grow this community and get this information to people who need it most. I'm Nadia. This is Biohacking Autism for people with autism and the ones who love them. And we'll see you in the next one.